Welcome here. We'll get started shortly. Welcome all. Yeah, we'll be starting shortly. Thank you for joining. Let's give it a minute so more can join. Recording is on. Let me share that link with other group. So let's get started here. Nazim, recording is on. Over to you. You may, Nazim, you may want to just recap a little bit. Nazim, we can't hear you. You are on mute. Nazim?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you. Go ahead. Go for it.
Cool.
Thank you.
We recently had a hackathon last weekend and we came second. We made an HR agent using BAML, Bland AI, as well as Microsoft Bot Framework. Now, again, we were in different call and I demoed how the agent was able to identify, parse the CVs, scrape the GitHub of those CV candidates if the GitHub link was there, add all those data, and take a decision whether the candidate is a good fit, bad fit, or a maybe. If it's a maybe, we generate 3 different questions for that candidate based on the gaps in the CV, and then make a call to him or her. Again, I had a call that I had done in the last meetup. I mean, the previous Google Meet, and then it asked 3 questions. It was very human-like. I think it was robotic, but it was the flow was very human-like. It could adopt. That's the beauty about Bland AI, where you can adopt the flow based on the candidate's uh, answers. So if I'm answering that, hey, I don't know anything about Azure, it can tell me that, okay, fine. It will change the questions that are related to Azure, which are coming up, to something else. So that's the beauty of Bland AI. Now, let's. So we were going to go deep into BAML, which is the main AI library I use to build this, and why it is good, and what's the benefit, when to use it, etc. So let me share my screen, and we will give a short intro about BAML, and we'll do some cool demos with BAML as well. Is my screen visible? Yep. Cool. So BAML is basically LLM orchestration library. I wouldn't say it's similar to LangChain, but I would put it in the same category where you're using the library to orchestrate or talk to LLM and get the response, etc. But the beauty of BAML is they are completely focused, or I would say they do very well when it comes to structured data. So anytime you have structured data, BAML is really quick and good in terms of output. They have their own language called BAML. So BAML is a language. So they have their own language which you code it in, define the structures that you want output in. So people who are familiar with Pydantic, it's similar to that. Does that again? They are also using Pydantic in the background, but when they are defining it in BAML language, you do it in their own language, and they have a Rust compiler which basically compiles this BAML code into any language you want. So it could be, I think they have a list somewhere. I'm not able to find it anyways. So they can, it can do it in your Python, it can do Java, it can do Go, it can do Node.js, it can do so many different languages. So that's again one of the beauties. So you can write the BAML code. It could be asking any of the LLMs in terms of questions, And then the output, once you are happy with whatever you built, you can generate the code into Python, TypeScript, Ruby, Java, or any other language, because they have their own compiler in Rust, which is able to do that. So yeah, that's the brief overview of BAML. And let me show a quick demo, and then we'll go a little bit deeper as well. So again, this is like a demo built by the team at BAML. So what it does is you can upload any image or anything and tell it to extract. So you don't have to, in the sense, give it the structure. It defines the structure by itself. So let us do this. Uh, yeah, so this is like a PDF photo of conference room, and I tell it to extract. So it generates, so they've written the code where it generates the BAML code itself. And okay, there was some error. So we try with something else. I'm not sure if this. Oh yeah, it's done. So basically, extract is we are feeding the image of the PDF to the LLM model, which is now coming back and giving the structure of data. So I'm not telling it anything. I'm just giving it the photo, and automatically the first LLM call is to make categories, whatever it's supposed to be extracting, and the second LLM call is sending that text from this and making a structured outcome. So I think that's pretty cool. Now, I was just thinking about, if you could make something like this for, say, doctor's receipt. Okay, this is like a demo project which they built quickly. We'll go deeper into how BAML works and everything. So I just wanted to show this demo before we start. So I have a doctor's receipt. Mm, I should have downloaded it. 1 second. Let me check my download folder. Oh yeah, here we have it. Add it to this. Okay, doctor.png. It's typical doctor handwriting, difficult to understand. And let us add it to our examples in this node UI so that it can come up there. Uh, cool. I'm saving it. Make it fresh. Okay, here we have it. Good. So we have this photo. Now I'll just click extract, and this demo is automatically defining what has to be extracted from this image, writing the code for that, and boom. So it took me like what 30 seconds to have this code. Now I can also edit the code. I can tell, instead of say prescription, instead of brand name, I want something else. Instead of generic name, dosage, or anything else. Like if you want to edit it, you can edit it as well. Just that it gives you a very quick output, and then you can play around with it and gives you a good system. So yeah, this is like a really cool thing which they built, and I kind of think it's cool. And let us go a little deeper into BAML, see what the magic is all about, how it's working, why it's good, and why I kind of use it in a lot of my demo projects as well. So, so BAML has its own language, as I mentioned, and let us start with a simple example. Yeah. So we have classes, which is kind of like how we have. So if people are familiar with Pydantic, which has similar structure where you have define a class, you define the name of the components and the type of the components, and you can add description as well in Pydantic. It's very similar to this, just that they have their own structure. So over here, for example, I'm defining a receipt class which has uh, establishment name, date, total, currency, item, and it can be a string of items. So I think item is defined over here. It's again string, float, and an int value. Now you use description in this so that when you're passing this structure to LLM, it knows more about what to extract. So for example, date, when you're mentioning that you want ISO 8601 format, it's going to give you in that format so that you don't have inconsistency in data every time you ask with different kind of input. So yeah, that's one component where you define the classes, and then you define functions. This is basically like your LLM call. So over here in function, we are told what are the input types, which is an image or could be a string as well. It's a union of image and string. These are they support string, they support image, they support video, sorry, audio, and text. Yeah. So these are input types, and when we have this, we have something called output type, which is the JSON or the class structure that the function or the LLM will return. So here it's called receipt, which is defined on top, as we discussed earlier. Now, in this function, there are, I think, two main parts. One is prompt and the client. Client is basically what LLM do you have to use, which is defined in a separate BAML file, and I'll go to that in a while, but I'll just explain this first. So what we're doing is we're defining what model we're using, and then in prompt, we could enter the prompts that we usually use. Now, in this case, uh, I just tell extract info from receipt, and I enter the receipt, which is coming as an input variable, either an image or a string. Now, in this, the beauty is, again, this is like a standard output schema that you have to define. So, TTX or output format is a standard thing that you have to put in your prompt, which basically converts the class that you define on top into a JSON structure, which is passed to LLM. So, it knows what structure to return the data in. So this is how the function is written over here. And then you could write tests, which basically you can run it inside your VS Code and quickly test out. That's something I really like about BAML. It helps me to quickly build a project and demo it right then and there instead of writing a LangChain code, define a template, run server again and again. So it's everything is right here and there. I don't need to go to different stuff and run uh, Python command in terminal. So yeah, you can write tests basically. Again, you can name the test anything and define what functions you're calling in the test. So over here we have defined extract receipt is the function we mentioned over here, and then arguments are basically any variables that you're passing to the function. So right now it's one, but you can pass multiple variables as well. Over here again, I've added this photo as well for this particular thing, and another test has just the text that is going on. So now we can just try. So this is a plugin that comes in VS Code as well, and you just run it. Now the beauty is you can also see all the raw, I would say, curl data or the raw prompts that are going in, right? It's loading, but yeah, so it also it's streaming, so like you can see the output as it's coming out. So over here you can see it's giving you a JSON output, and you're able to translate it over here. That's pretty cool. Okay. Yeah. So it can also help you understand how the tokenization is happening. So over here I mentioned extract yeah, extract info from the receipts. So it's dividing into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tokens, and then uh, this is the whole prompt that's going to the LLM. So there's nothing that is hidden from you. So in a lot of times when you do it in LangChain, you don't know what's the actual prompt that's going in. Did I miss anything? Did I add anything? So that's I think one good part about BAML as well. So I can see over here that I'm passing the text, I'm passing the image, and the class that is defined over here, the receipt that is over here. Very similar to, let me switch it off. Yeah, it's very similar to what you've defined over here. That helps LLM return the structured
Nazim,
data. Yes, Piyush?
yeah, one question. So when you define the response model, right, where this information will be captured, let's say this receipt one, correct?
Uh-huh.
So this receipt you defined first, or you check the response of the that output, and according to that you define the receipt. Uh, like what should be the variable names and everything.
So again, the one that I showed demo earlier, that was just a demo. Like it was a demo built by the BAML team inside the hackathon themselves. But when you're actually doing a BAML coding, I would suggest you define like a broad class of items and what you want inside, like what you want to extract from that particular data. So whatever you're putting inside LM, what do you want to extract? What's the format you want to extract? Just define the format in a hierarchical class structure over here, and that should be good. And then I would suggest keep everything in string first, so that you can see how the outcome is, and then keep adopting it based on that. So for example, over here, I don't want to have price in float, so maybe I'll put it string. I'll make that change and I'll run the test again. So very quick. So I would suggest quickly put something in there and start iterating instead of spending a lot of time in defining the right structure. Put something and start iterating. That's what I would suggest.
Okay, and how the naming are decided? Let's say you mentioned the currency.
Uh-huh.
So that like it is internally identify those things that currency should map to this or how.
Yes. So what's happening is when you get this output, for example, you see over here, right? This is the output from the LLM. This is what LLM is giving output as. Now this will be passed through BAML's Rust compiler, which
Mhm.
will map this to the class that you have defined, and then
Okay.
give this class as an output to your function.
So
So
there might be some inaccuracy also, right? Means it cannot be 100% true every time.
it is so basically they have beat state of the art in terms of structured outcome. So you can see OpenAI recently came out with a structured outcome response, right, which was strictly giving structured outcome. They were able to beat it as well with Claude 3.5 as well as 4.0 as well. So because of the Rust compiler, a lot of the lot of the times when you get the uneven JSON in the sense, sorry, I'm missing the right. Where did that go? Give me a second. Yeah, it was over here. So basically, certain times say LLM misses out the colon, or LLM misses out the over here also you can mention like it's a number. It misses out something. So certain times it misses out a lot of these characters or certain aspect that has to be put in a correct JSON format. In that case, a normal parenting class fails. You have to write a parser to extract data and make sure things are fine. But that's the beauty of BAML. It's having a really good Rust compiler that kind of fills the gap for you. So in case if the LLM forgets to put a colon or a semicolon or mispronounces the name currency, forgets an R inside, the compiler will be able to capture that because it has the information about the class that you already defined. It tries to match and make sure that things are correct. So yeah, I think it's the compiler that's the strong suit of BAML over here, which is doing all the mapping of output, just LLM output to the class. I hope
Okay.
that answers the question.
Yeah, yeah, thanks.
By the way, guys, feel free to ask questions. Let's not make it very formal. So anytime you feel anything, just interrupt me. Not a problem. Yeah, Mrinal, Subhash, you have a
Yeah.
question?
So unlike Python, where you define the type of the variable and then the variable, here it's the opposite. Is it like you
Yeah.
define the variable and then the type? Is it?
Yes. So there's a variable name. This is the type, and you can add description. So it describes your variable, and there's also something called as aliases, which again the same these features are there in Python, just that it's convenient so that everything is in one place. I can quickly change stuff and test it over here right in one entry
Yeah.
instead of switching from Python to terminal to again Python. That's why I kind of use this a lot for testing.
And so this is another IDE in itself. Like, what is this IDE called?
Oh, one
Where
sorry,
you're
this is their prompt. This is their own prompt fiddle, which is like a web version of I think VS Code, but you can have it in VS Code as well. So this is the VS Code logic that I had written for the earlier demo that I did, LLM HR agent, where I had written
okay.
different functions. So you can see there are like 3 different functions which we made. Then the different tests I wrote, and they have their own VS Code plugin, which helps you test it. So it's a similar UI that you saw earlier. So it helps you run the
Yeah.
tests.
Uh-huh.
And okay, seems that okay, so I'm out of my tokens. But anyway, so this is a plugin that is available, so you could easily install the BAML plugin from your extensions. It's very simple to install it in terms of Python as well. All you have to do is just to pip install BAML CLI. So BAML-CLI. That should install. I already have it installed, but this is the only command you need. Okay, seems like I don't have it installed. And then after that, you just have to do BAML.cli init, and it gives you this BAML folder structure already. Yeah, so I already have it. So if you do init, it gives you this BAML source file, which where you can fiddle around with it and make new prompts, generate different functions, etc. And once you're done with it, all you have to do is BAML CLI second generate. So what it does is it generates BAML Python code for you, and then you can use this easily in your other Python logic. So
Okay.
you develop it in, like, you do your prompting, prompt engineering, your structure of code, structure of outcome, everything in BAML. Finish it, make sure tests are running fine, etc. Then make a, what do you say, Python function for it. Like, you can just do BAML generate, it will make Python folder for you where all the Python functions are there. And then you have to just, like, from BAML client source B and the types that whatever you're defined, you can get that and just make a function call. So it's encapsulate all your LLM calls separately. So what happens, you can just focus on uh, logic over here. And that's, I think, in terms of Python, I don't think it's much, but take languages like Node or Java or Go, where AI libraries are not very well versed. This would be quite helpful, where you could do your coding or LLM calls inside BAML and then generate Go files or Java files, and then just make it as a function call in Java.
Okay. Okay. Cool. Thanks.
Uh, Thank you. Let me go through one other feature. I think I've just got stuck in this one feature, but there are a lot of other features as well that they have. So so as I mentioned in this part where we were defining client, like, GPT-4o, what is happening in the backend, where are we doing environment variable, etc. That's happening in the client. So there are three files that are generated usually. So as you can see over here in this, there is a client.baml, which is mainly handling the LLM APIs and calls, etc. Generator is basically like a, I would say, support library. So not to touch this a lot until the version is different. But everything else, just keep it as it is. Resume and client are the two main libraries you'll be playing around with, or like you can define something else as well, like whatever, how many other classes or sub, I would say, domains you are doing it, just define it separately. And in clients where you define your LLM logic. Now, if you see over here, what we're doing is we are just a provider's name. So they have integration with all the providers. So Anthropic, Gemini, Google Gemini, OpenAI, etc. So you just mention the provider name. You can see it in the documentation. It's pretty easy. Copy paste it over here, and then you just define model and the API keys, which are there in the environment variable. So yeah, that's pretty simple in terms of defining the LLM agents. Now, in terms of, I think this is another cool part about BAML is you can define different flows. I was just trying to have this. Oh yeah. So this is basically, this could be defined inside client, where what you do is you define fallback systems. So you name this client as super duper client, and then provide as fallback. So it's basically uh, giving a strategy of, first I go hit GPT-4. If there is an error in terms of the rate limit or something else, I go to 4.0. And then if there's an error there as well, maybe I go to Gemini, and then you can keep doing that. So you can define different options there. Fallback is basically a waterfall system. It starts from 4.0, and then Gemini. Similarly, you can do it for round robin. So you can define a round robin system where it first goes to 4.0, then Gemini, then 4.0 again, then Gemini. It keeps doing that in a loop. So this is one cool part about BAML as well. So it handles that routing system, which, I, to be honest, gives you error most of the time in terms of rate limit if you're using it for a decent size project and multiple users are using it. So yeah, this is also one cool feature about BAML. And then function calling. So the way function calling is handled in this a little different. So in terms of, say, when you use LangChain, function calling is very abstracted. Like, you are not knowing what is happening in the background, etc. You're just calling a particular say, function, and then it executes in the background. Now, what BAML has, the approach what they've taken is they have now defined BAM, like, function calling as a class classification. So over here we have, say, weather API, right? And 1 second, yeah. So we have a weather API, and what we're trying to do is we're telling it to use a tool uh, with this particular prompt and give the output. So extract the info from this message, and the message is, what's the weather in San Francisco tomorrow, April 23rd, January, oh sorry, April 23rd, 2024 at 3 p.m. So again, it's going inside over here inside GPT-4o. We are getting this response inside this weather API class, which is giving me the city and giving me the time of the day. Now the thing is, when you do a function calling, you are just adding a payload to an API and sending it, right? And then whatever is the response again has to be in a certain structure, and you use it in your follow-on logic. So over here, they're not doing the API call for you. They're giving you the classification or the structured data, and you do the API call. I think it'll be better if I show you this multiple options, which will be better. Yeah, so it's like weather API and send email. There are two options, and in normal scenario, you will tell the LangChain tool agent to classify and choose the tool between the two. But that's not how this is done over here. What you're doing over here is you're telling AI to extract details from this text, which is whether the weather in San Francisco, and choose between these two tools. So we have given it as a union, right? Like it could be a weather API or it could be a send. So if I run the test of this, it will give me the weather API output. So it's telling me it's choosing this particular and giving it to me. And once I have the structure, again, you can just write a simple if-else logic. Like if it's a weather API output, you do the weather API call. If it's a send email output, you do send API call. So it's about it's giving the responsibility of orchestrating the tools in your hands. Like it's only doing the classification for you and giving it to you. So as you can see over here, when you send a data that is send an email to John Doe with subject hello and the body how are you doing it, it does it and gives you structured data output in terms of send email format. This is a send email class. And after that, you can make an if-else statement that if the output is in send email, send an email. If it's a weather API, send a weather API. So this is how the function calling is handled in BAML. And I think what this does is it gives you a very bare bones differentiation in terms of AI, where all your AI calls are handled by BAML, but you write your logic in terms of agents, whether you want a recursive agent, you can put it in a while loop, for loop, talking to each other, with multiple LLM calls, or you can have if statement, for statements, API calls that are in your Python logic. You define the algorithm, you define the structure. BAML only handles the AI calls for you, and it's really only a function call away for you. So you don't have to worry about how the function calling is working. You just define it once, and you focus on your algorithms and AI logic, etc., in Python or on the language that you use. So yeah, so that's I would say a broad idea about what BAML does. And yeah, they have multiple input types as well. So they have audio, as I mentioned earlier. They have image as well. And oh yeah, this is interesting. So I think recently you would have heard. I think yesterday, yeah, yesterday O1 was released by OpenAI, which is basically doing chain of thought or reasoning in the background and then giving you the output. Now, to be honest, like people have been playing around with this for a while now, and I was trying to talk to a friend yesterday, and he was able to replicate 9 out of 10 outcome that OneO gives with just GPT 4 Mini. So that's basically having a lot of chain of thought and giving it reflection type of prompts, and it will be able to give you that as well. So one good thing about this as well is, as I mentioned, like they have their own Rust compiler which is able to compile all this output from LLM and give it to you in a very structured format, even if there's text in there. So over here we have defined again, so order status, email are enums. Enum is basically like a multiple choice question where you will have AI decide only among these options, and then this is given to the order status variable. So we have this order info class which has all these details, which is passed again to the LLM and tell it to extract info from it and think before giving the outcome. So over here, as you can see the LLM outcome, let me open it. So LLM is thinking before giving the output. It's like, let's break down the email content step by step, order status, uh, tracking number. So it's thinking out loud and doing all these details. And at the last, it's giving us JSON. Now that's, I would say, a good part about BAML. This I think is difficult in Pydantic, where you are able to uh, parse through the text as well as JSON and only extract the JSON part. So it's able to only extract the JSON part and not give you an error because text is there. And kind of, I think almost always when you use chain of thought, it improves the outcome quality. So this helps you do that in a structured data format, which I don't think you'll be able to do it in Pydantic or normal LangChain code, where you have to write like parsers and everything before giving it to Pydantic to get a structured outcome. So it enables you to do chain of thought, which improves your outcome almost always. At the same time, I think you can implement reflection as well, where you extract the data, pass it to a next function call. So you make one function and you pass it, like do LLM call with chain of thoughts, and then you pass that to another function, which will give you the output in structure. So that is also possible. That's, I think, what OpenAI is doing with O1 in the backend as well. So yeah, this is like a broad classification of all the say features of BAML, and I think you could go to their website or documentation, install it, start using it. They have this prompt fiddle, which I was using to demo right now to play around with it. And so I think you can also go to promptfiddle.com and try playing around fiddling with BAML. And yeah, so that should be good. And let me know if you guys have any questions.
I have one. Actually, I might have missed if you have said because in this new
Uh-huh.
link, I actually joined later. I
Uh-huh.
was asking actually the basic question: why should we use this one? Actually, what is the benefit of compared to other techniques,
Got
and
it.
what is it actually?
So Paul, can you give me a little background about like have you used LangChain or other libraries for orchestration?
Yeah, LangChain
Good.
I've used, LangChain, Llama Index, and all those things like this I've used.
Got it. So you might be familiar how in LangChain we usually use Pydantic for structured data. And I would say this is more like Pydantic on steroids. So they're able to do structured data very well because they have a very
Hmm.
strong Rust compiler, which is able to take the output of LLM, which is not always in a structured format. Like there are a lot of times where it hallucinates and adds text, or forgets the semicolon, forgets a bracket. But the Rust compiler is built very well, so it's able to pass through that JSON, give it output. So it increases your, it's very good at the structure output. That's one. And second is I really like that I'm able to quickly test it without going out of the system and change a lot of other things. So as I mentioned, like they have their own VS Code plugin, so you can quickly mention the prompts, define the structure that you want, and give the text outcome, define test, and start playing around. So I can do stuff in 5 minutes, which would take me say maybe 10, 15 minutes to set up in Pydantic structure and like define things and then get started. So I kind of prefer it for speed and structured data.
Got it. What I understood by seeing at a glance that writing this one itself will take some time because of this all this syntax over there and all. What I'm feeling that it is a little bit of effort initially. After it is
I
done,
agree.
then fine.
I agree. But I think what I showed earlier, like I think a while ago, which was
Hmm.
this 1 second. Yeah, this one, where you're just giving it the image or the text input and it is generating BAML code for you. This kind of solves the problem for you, right? Like you don't have to, all you have to do is understand the schema, how it works, but after that, you don't have to sit and generate stuff. It kind of gives you a boilerplate, which you copy paste into a VS code, and then you keep changing your classes and, subclasses, change the prompts that you want, etc. So it gives you like a maybe first draft, and then you can keep going there. And also, I think when you install BAML, it comes up with a
Hmm.
basic uh, structure defined in your resume.baml. So you can use that and then like build on top of it.
Okay, so it will give me some basic structure, and then I can modify those
Yes,
things and add my classes and all those stuffs, right?
yes, you're right. So let me see if I can do it quickly. Yes, sir. Meanwhile, if anyone else has question, let me know. Meanwhile, I load the Python variable. Any other questions? Meanwhile, so what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a BAML from scratch and show you guys how it comes when it's from scratch, because the other things I showed uh, does not come from scratch. Like those things are coded out by me earlier.
Right.
But
So this is sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, I was just asking, have you used Pydantic for your like structured outcomes?
No.
Not yet, right? Okay.
No.
I think that's when you realize kind of the value of BAML once you like work on structured outcomes where you need the output in a fixed JSON format. That's where the struggle comes in with like defining classes. Like it's the to and fro is a little cumbersome, but when you have BAML, you can have it all in one environment. So which Let me see if the Python environment is created. I can quickly install and show it.
Okay.
So git install CLR. I think they're pretty new as well. I think they will. I saw them 3 weeks ago or so on LinkedIn. So IT company.
Okay.
And
So this is mostly useful for testing cases.
I think people are using it in production. I haven't moved it yet, so I'm still, again, as I told, I've got familiar with it 3 weeks ago. So my code is pretty, I would say, messed up in LangChain already. So migrating it is a task itself. So I'm planning to use this for new projects, but I'm not using it in production yet. But I think it's decent enough because, again, Rust compiler is pretty stable in that sense, and it gives better outcome and consistent outcome compared to LangChain, Pydantic stuff in terms of structured data. So yeah, this is what I told you, right? I installed BAML, I did BAML in it, and it gave me this folder which has BAML files ready-made in it. So you can see the file already has resume class defined. It has a function extract resume defined, and it has one test defined as well. So now you can start with this, and like for example, now instead of this, you want to say parse insurance documents, right? So you can change the class name to extract insurance, and say maybe extract, like change the resume class. So instead of this, you'll tell insurance, and then you would say maybe name of the person, email, experience will not be there. So maybe date, it will not be there. So maybe we define another thing called covered.
Amount.
Sorry.
Amount.
Yeah, amount as well. I think we will put it in covered.
Okay.
So, and this can be string. Then we tell it amount. This can be an int. So yeah, so you have this now. What will do is whenever you pass in some data for insurance, let's see if we can find some on time. Sure. Let's see if I can copy this and how this. So I put the data over here for test. So we took all these details and we defined insurance cover and test. Oops. I missed out something. Okay, my quota is done. Let me switch to Anthropic because OpenAI is done. So Anthropic Sonnet. Okay. So this is where I mentioned, right? Clients, you have LLMs defined here. So I'm switching from OpenAI 4.0 to Sonnet, and hopefully this works. The header is required. Check that network. Not sure what the header is. Oh, Anthropic key is not defined. Don't think I'll be able to put the keys over here while I'm sharing. Just let me unshare the screen meanwhile. Because I've already done this twice where I've shared my API keys. I want to do it again. Yes, with my API, but looks like I'm getting some kind of error. First,
Oh, you can try setting the header, Nazim,
from where?
in the client. I think Anthropic changed what their URL is now.
Oh, okay, okay.
Anthropic now doesn't allow browsers to contact, so you can add a header here.
Do you have a sample header?
Just headers. In the options. Curly brace. And I think the header is in the error message.
Okay.
Anthropic changed some stuff this time. I saw that. Yeah, that Anthropic dangerously allow. That specific one. Anthropic dangerous direct browser access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We need to remove this curly braces.
No, you need the curly brace there. And just to enter on that line. And the value of that header, I think, needs to be true.
Okay, this has to be true, right?
I probably don't need the other curly brace either. You have one extra curly brace. So I can send you the code.
My OpenAI credits had to get ended at the wrong time. But anyways, yeah. So I'm just not able to run it right now because I have finished my OpenAI credits, and Anthropics apparently just changed their
I put in
headers
the
format.
chat for you.
Is it? Okay. Okay. Hope this works.
You're missing one curly. 930. Yeah.
Yeah, so giving some direct browser access. Yeah. Cool then. Anyways, so I just wanted to give a brief intro about BAML and how I use it. I kind of found it to be cool. So give a demo about it. And yeah, let me know if you guys have any other questions or want to play around with something. If not, we can conclude the call.
Is it markup language kind of thing?
No, no, it is not markup. It's their own language. So like they have their own definition of how classes are defined, how functions are defined. But it's very similar to, I would say, TypeScript.
Okay.
Cool, Vivek.
So when should we
Yeah, Paul.
think about using this one? When suppose we are working on some project, and what are the different moments that we should think about this? Okay, let's work on BAML.
So see, anytime you're using another library to orchestrate an LLM call, so you're using LangChain, you can using say Llama Index. It's similar to that. So you can use BAML instead. I kind of use it where I need structured data and I don't know what kind of output I need. So I kind of want a lot of quick iterations. That's where I think this is very good. So I'm able to quickly build stuff and play around with stuff, get the output on the VS Code terminal itself. So I would suggest you maybe anywhere you have structured data output, maybe try it out once and see how it goes. I think
Okay.
yes, it might be a little slow in start because you're not familiar with the language, but once you get familiar with how the structures are defined and say how classes are defined, it's very quick. Like you're just changing the class name, class output structure, like string, int, etc., and then quickly iterating. So it kind of saves a lot of development time. That's one big reason I use it. It saves me a lot of development time. I can quickly build stuff.
Okay, so apart from multimodal, if you want to use in language cases, so any example?
Language case in the sense?
I mean to say, right now we have used this receipts and some images, some resume
Yes.
and all the stuff videos.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
So apart from that one, if you want to use some just language model like GPT-4, so
You can do that. You can do that. 1 second, let me show you.
Mhm.
So it can also take text. It's not that it needs to have image. It can take text as well. So
Okay.
for example, in this, let us add another item called decision. The string, and we'll tell it that this could be, say, is this cost and costly restaurant? Why should I go here again? Now, it should ideally give me a text output in this. And let us try running it. Okay, decision. Oh, okay, I missed out something. It is over here. Okay, I think I have to also give it null because sometimes it misses the item. Okay. A decision. Let me add it to the prompt. Extract info from this receipt and tell me if I need to go there again. It's still not
I
focusing
think
on
you
the
spelled
decision.
decision wrong.
Oh, is it? Ah, but that should work, right? No? Go no go. Let's try that. Ah, and give it output. Yeah, finally. So yes, because the prices are reasonable and the item ordered were both prices at $2.5. It's fairly typical for coffee and a pastry in a chain like Starbucks. So like again, structure is just the structure that like you can ask general questions, you can tell it to take decisions, do chain of thought, and it's just about how you are getting the output. You're defining how you're getting output. That's it. You can do it like normal LLM calls as well.
Gotcha.
So that's what I told you. Like, it's really good in terms of testing. Like, I can see immediately, I can change stuff over here. I can see the output here. I can change the prompt here. I can see the output over it. So it's very good in terms of testing and iterating things. Like, in your normal use case, you will have to define pydantic classes. You have to define LLM call. Make the chain, invoke the chain, and then go to the terminal, run it, see the output, come back again. And another thing is, you also want sometimes I like seeing the prompts. Like, I want to see that like what is going inside the LLM. Certain times, again, it's like a very simple outcome, but you're building the complex application and data is coming from multiple sources. Like in the earlier demo I showed, where I was doing resumes, GitHub data, LinkedIn data. So all that I want to make sure the data is well structured and going well. And only then, I can debug it. So if I don't see the prompt, I'll not be able to debug it. So that's, I think, one good thing about Turbo. Like, it really puts everything in one place and helps me reduce my development time. So that's kind of why I've been using it lately.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I can see that learning syntax is a little bit cumbersome, not very easy actually, but I have to be very careful.
Yeah. I think you need probably a couple of days with it. Like if you fiddle around for 2 days or 3, I think that should be good enough for you to get started. Like I just did it in 1 or 2 days only.
Okay, that's fine. And
But yeah, I think it's good. Yeah, sorry, come again.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead, please.
I was just telling, like, it's worth having a look at. Like, maybe just play around with it and see if you like it or not. But I like it. Yeah, you're saying something.
Yeah, I was saying instead of when you are using TensorFlow or PyTorch or all those kind of libraries, so that time also, do you think that
No. No. So
Yeah, because
this is focused just on LLMs. So
Yeah.
only wherever you are talking to LLMs, the LLM
Mhm.
calls. BAML handles it very well in terms of getting the structured output as well as making sure the LLM calls are obfuscated. You don't have to worry about creating those chains and etc. that you have in life. So that's where it's good at. But if you're using say PyTorch and other things, what you can do is you can write a Python logic in PyTorch, etc. And wherever you're calling the LLM, you can use the BAML and like do a function call over there,
Got it.
like how we did it in this thing. Like you can just do a function extract resume, just one function call, and you should be able to get the data from LLM. Just pass the input, do a function call, get the output, and then you can have your lang chain or TensorFlow logic, everything that you have it over here.
So we need to define new functions or whatever
Yes.
my requirement is.
Yes. So whatever your prompt requirements, for example, if you want to extract a resume, you want to analyze stocks, or you want to generate LinkedIn post, you can make different BAML files for that and define functions, define input data, define output structure, and test it with a few samples. And once working fine, you can generate Python code, import the functions, and start using it.
Okay. So while installing, I think we get a sample of this.
Yes.
Yeah, some sample,
So,
except
like-
resume and other things.
I think there was one. Yeah, this one. The extract resume. Yeah, the insurance one we did, right? It didn't work out because I didn't have
Right.
API keys. So that's the thing you get as output, and you can quickly just change like the class structure. I think if you can just change the class structure, number one, and just change some, like put some other text that you want to play around with, you can start playing around. Like it's not much time. I think 5 minutes. Just change the class structure, change the prompts if you want to, give more details if you want, and then just sample text, and you are good to go.
Okay.
Okay, give it a try.
Sure.
Thanks, Paul. Anyone else? Any questions?
Thanks,
So-
Nazim.
Yeah. Are there any tools which can generate this code, BAML, by prompting?
Right now, no. But as I showed in one of the demos, I think they have built a small demo around it. They should release this soon.
Okay. And when we are deploying this into, do we need to have some libraries or something in the production?
Yes.
How is it?
So the BAML, where I showed you, right? You install BAML CLI. That's the dependency you'll have to put in your requirement.txt.
Okay. And it need a node, no?
No.
Node or no need?
It is having a Rust compiler which is doing all the parsing, but it's not very heavy. It's super lightweight. So when you add the requirement of BAML CLI, it will automatically install it and keep it ready for you. So all you have to do is like how you do LangChain. You just put LangChain inside requirement.txt, right? You do the same thing with BAML. So you just put BAML-CLI inside requirement.txt.
Okay. And any security related plugin or something,
There's no
anything we
login
have
or
to
anything.
worry?
Nothing in terms of login. Like it's like any other library you use LangChain, you use Llama Index, similar to that. So just that it's lightweight and fast.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Okay, great webinar. Any final questions, folks? Okay, so in that case, we come to an end. Excellent presentation, Nazim. Glad to see your expertise and privileged to listen to you. Thank you for the presentation.
Thanks for